Only been a few hours, but it felt like days. Only been days, but it felt like months. Been gone for a year, only know like once. Life move fast when you do
Big T to the G, and I'm here with T. And we're back with another reaction, man. We're still going down that rabbit hole, and this one's going to be
the top 10 scientific conspiracy that turn out to be true.
Awesome. So without wasting time, let's get into it.
The most secret program ever conducted by the CIA in the United States.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 scientific conspiracy theories that turned out to be true.
And he looked me in the eye and he said, "We're the military. We can do what we want."
For this list, we'll be looking at modern conspiracy theories with a scientific twist that wound up being true, though they may not be what you think. Did the Illuminati keep a conspiracy theory off this list? Let us know in the comments below. Number 10, weather control programs. The history of the U.S. government's attempts to control the weather began after the Civil War. In the late 1800s, an American engineer collected dozens of stories of rain following large battles. To recreate the effect, a general set off $9,000 worth of explosives in Texas. The results were inconclusive.
Where people believe that all of the natural disasters that have been occurring recently are linked to a secret climate controlling weapon used by the U.S. Army.
The better part of a century later, the Pentagon incorporated weather control into their strategy for the Vietnam War. Operation Sober Popeye lasted for 5 years. Using planes, the military tried to seed rain clouds over Vietnam.
The silver iodide particles mimic ice crystals and provide the scaffolding of sorts for ice to form. That ice then grows very efficiently by consuming the supercool liquid drops. Usually after about 20 minutes, they grow large enough and fall out of the cloud as precipitation.
Oh, wow.
If they extend the monsoon season, it could provide a strategic advantage. A series of news stories revealed the program. 6 years later, in 1978, weather-based environmental warfare was banned around the world.
So maybe the lesson learned here is we shouldn't meddle with forces that we don't really understand.
Yeah,
because we may not like the result.
Number 9, Canada tried to create actual Gaydar. In the mid-20th century, gay men and women had to keep their orientation secret or risk losing their social standing, jobs, or even their lives.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of possible ways in which someone could have a character weakness, right? Or some sort of addiction. But the one that the Canadian state focuses on is homosexuality.
It was the key focus, not just a focus.
In an attempt to ferret out gay men in the military or other government institutions from the 1950s on, the Canadian government hired Professor Frank Robert Wake. Wake invented what they would ultimately call the fruit machine.
This is the attempt by the government to determine and find a technology or a set of tests that would scientifically and objectively be able to determine who was gay or lesbian.
Today, we call it Gaydar.
Forget it. He's gay.
What? How can you tell?
We actually saw this episode. We love Futurama, man. Let us know in the comments if we should do some Futurama reactions because we love that show, man.
Love Bender.
That episode was hella funny. They made him cut his little situation.
These things, I've got what they call Gaydar.
Wake would strap men into a chair, force them to look at pornography, and measure their physical reactions. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police investigated thousands of government employees as a result.
The de facto policy was that if you were homosexual, you were out. That's what it came down to. You were out. Wow. There was no discretion. And the Mounties got really carried away with this.
Many men lost their jobs due to the dubious test results until it was discontinued. Number 8, the U.S. government poisoned alcohol during Prohibition. Ratified in 1919, the 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution prohibited alcohol.
What do you think about Prohibition, Mr. Ness?
You drink, Mr. Ness? Let's answer the question.
It's not just a showpiece. And I'll tell you exactly how I feel about Prohibition. It is the law of the land.
The period of Prohibition would last until 1933, ending with the ratification of the 21st Amendment. Despite the law, illegal smuggling, manufacturing, and distribution of drinking alcohol was rampant.
To satisfy a thirsty nation, gangsters like Al Capone operate illicit distilleries and smuggle in liquor from other countries.
In an attempt to curtail drinking, the U.S. government tried something radical. Even before 1920, they mandated that extra contaminants be added to industrial alcohol to prevent its consumption.
What the government then looked at was, can we do something to this alcohol that makes it much riskier to drink, and use that essentially as a chemical enforcement of prohibition.
In 1926, they added new regulations requiring the inclusion of more toxic poisons. Manufacturers added benzene, mercury, and methanol. What? Unsurprisingly, this stopped neither the bootleggers nor the drinkers. An estimated 10,000 people died, and many others were blinded. Number 7, big tobacco hid evidence linking...
That was crazy. I didn't even know that happened. Wow.
I heard about it.
That's wow. People was like, I don't care about that poison.
But that's...
Sorry.
Yeah.
Smoking to cancer. Today, the connection between smoking cigarettes and lung cancer is well known.
These ads are hitting television networks and major newspapers across the country.
There is no safe cigarette.
All directly addressing the negative impacts of smoking.
All cigarettes cause cancer, lung disease, heart attacks, and premature death.
Packs of cigarettes sold in the United States must now have Surgeon General warning labels. It wasn't always that way. Big Tobacco spent years fighting the government on this decision, claiming innocence and a lack of evidence. As it turns out, that was a decades-old lie.
He's been testing the link between nicotine and lung cancer for 30 years and hasn't found any conclusive results. The man's a genius. He could disprove gravity.
The cigarette companies had internal studies dating back to the 1950s on the effects of smoking. Cigarette smoke contains harmful substances like tar, cyanide, lead, and arsenic. However, Big Tobacco knew in 1959 that it also contained a radioactive isotope, polonium-210. Cigarette companies could have removed it, but doing so would have made absorbing nicotine harder and affected their profits.
Consumers cough up for higher prices because they crave.
That makes sense.
Oh.
You don't want to put the pots.
Oh, what's about the...
Made the drug in tobacco nicotine. And without nicotine addiction, there would simply be no tobacco industry. And the industry knows this.
Number 6, the U.S. government investigates UFOs. The truth is out there. For years, conspiracy theories about aliens have filled newsletters and online forums.
Are we alone in the universe? Impossible.
Mulder.
When you consider the wonders that exist all around us. Voodoo priests of Haiti, the Tibetan numerologists of Appalachia, the unsolved mysteries of unsolved mysteries. The truth is out there.
Aliens exist, and the government is secretly studying them. As it turns out, that's half true. The U.S. government admitted in 2017 that from 2007 to 2012, there was a $22 million investigation. The Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program collected data on UFOs.
The DoD not offering much more info, saying the aerial phenomena observed in the videos remains characterized as unidentified.
Also in 2017, several remarkable videos were leaked from U.S. Navy sightings of UFOs, which were eventually confirmed by the Pentagon as authentic. In 2020, a successor program was formed, the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, replaced in 2022 with the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office.
What they're calling unexplained aerial phenomena. 2 videos showing objects spotted by Navy fighter pilots during training flights in 2015.
Number 5, the U.S. government experimented on black men. For 4 decades, the CDC and the United States Public Health Service conducted the Tuskegee study, enlisting 600 impoverished black men in Alabama in 1932.
Free, huh? You say free?
Yeah. Doctor is fine and free as any you can get anywhere.
The men, mostly sharecroppers, were deceived about its real purpose to study syphilis. 2/3 of the men had latent syphilis, but rather than informing them or treating them with penicillin, researchers monitored them and gave them fake treatments for quote-unquote bad blood.
That is bad blood. That's what we're checking to see if y'all got so we can get rid of it.
Over 100 died of syphilis-related medical problems. 40 of their wives contracted the disease, and 19 children were born with it. A whistleblower revealed the true nature of the study, which was shut down in 1972. President Clinton offered an apology from the U.S. government in 1997.
On behalf of the American people, what the United States government did was shameful, and I am sorry.
Number 4, the United States' human radiation experiments. At the dawn of the nuclear age in the 1940s, governments were desperate for data. In the U.S., the Atomic Energy Commission, or AEC, turns to human experimentation commissioning dozens of studies.
But the Department of Defense was very interested in the effects of total body irradiation. Because if there's a nuclear war and people get irradiated, are they going to be able to function?
In one, an MIT professor fed radioactive materials to mentally disabled boys. Researchers at Vanderbilt University gave pregnant women radioactive pills. U.S. soldiers were exposed to radiation. Parents at hospitals were injected with plutonium, and prisoners had their testicles irradiated, leading to birth defects.
Many of the prisoners that I interviewed were still in prison. They had all kinds of medical problems and cancers and health issues.
In Operation Sunshine, the AEC and U.S. Air Force...
That's not cool, man. You can't... I mean, I know their inmates probably did something bad to be there for it, but you can't experiment on people. Like, you can't...
I know, right?
Listed agents to steal tissue samples and body parts from 1,500 cadavers, many of them children, whose remains were pillaged without the consent of parents. In 1994, President Bill Clinton oversaw the release of classified records and made a formal apology on behalf of the government.
Bill Clinton was doing a lot of apologizing for sorry, we was doing this, y'all. Sorry, I just got here.
It was not even him,
I got here. It was like 77.
Government.
The United States of America offers a sincere apology to those of our citizens who were subjected to these experiments, to their families,
experiments again,
and their communities.
Number 3, Bayer spread HIV. Many conspiracies tend to focus on government cabals. Oftentimes, though, some of the worst secrets come from the private sector.
They wanted to keep it secret. They didn't want to publicize something which would be damaging for the company.
German pharmaceutical company Bayer has been selling aspirin since 1899. Since that time, they've expanded to all kinds of drugs and medications. In the 1980s, the Bayer-owned company Cutter Biological was selling blood clotting factors for hemophiliacs, but recruiting high-risk donors to manufacture it.
The medicine's called Factorate. It was an injection medicine that was used for hemophiliacs, mostly children. Children had been born with an injection.
That clotting factor became contaminated with HIV. When the problem was discovered, Cutter declared the response irrational, but switched over to safe heat-treated products for the Western market. Then they shipped the contaminated products to Latin America and Asia to make a buck.
This company knew absolutely that they had a problem with the product. They knew that it was infected with AIDS. They dumped it because they wanted to turn this disaster into a profit.
Roughly 20,000 patients were infected by Bayer's product. Number 2. The government is spying on you.
Oh, that's true.
The United States has a long history of mass surveillance. During the Civil Rights Movement, intelligence agencies targeted and sought to silence political dissidents through a program known as COINTELPRO.
J. Edgar Hoover ordered a nationwide campaign to disrupt the activities of the New Left without telling any of his superiors about it. Many of the techniques were clearly illegal. Burglaries, forged blackmail letters, and threats of violence were used.
But leaked information from whistleblowers has revealed surveillance systems in the 21st century that beggar belief. After 9/11, President George W. Bush empowered the NSA to conduct mass surveillance, both foreign and domestic, on an unprecedented scale.
The NSA specifically targets the communications of everyone. It ingests them by default. It collects them in its system, and it filters them, and it analyzes them, and it measures them, and it stores them for periods of time.
This included warrantless wiretapping of telephones, but it's much worse than that, with programs that suck up emails, text messages, and video chats via tech giants, or straight from undersea cables. Combined with their collection of cellular metadata, the NSA has constructed a full-blown digital panopticon.
When a call is made, Verizon turns over this information: the phone number, phone serial number, the location the call comes from, the time of the call, the duration of the call, and all the same information for the person on the other end of the phone.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel, occasional videos, or... CIA is a conspiracy boogeyman and for mind control experiments. The CIA is a conspiracy boogeyman and for good reason. Their fearsome reputation owes a lot to the infamous...
You remember that movie we saw, Red? When they were talking about the dude, I think it was played by John Malkovich, and it was like, he thought the government was running LSD. Oh, yeah, it was secretly poisoning with LSD daily or something like that.
Yeah, they were giving high dose of LSD every day for.
And it turns out he was right. They were.
Because they were in his mind or something like that. Like,
something
like that.
Ultra program.
In the early days of the Cold War, the CIA ordered the creation of a secret program intended to find ways of mind control. They funded an army of psychiatric institutions across the United States and Canada to perform experiments on unsuspecting patients.
The program was meant to pioneer biochemical and psychological techniques. The CIA wanted to manipulate people in influential positions and to develop a truth serum for interrogation. They gave LSD to volunteers, students, Johns at CIA-funded brothels, doctors, civilians, and even their own employees. Usually they did so without anyone's informed consent. They tested hypnosis and interrogation techniques. They tested on Canadians using brutal electroshock methods.
Massive drug regime, enforced prolonged sleep, intensive electroshock, largely funded by the Canadian government and the American CIA.
They tested on Danes. The horrible program may have never ended if not for the Watergate scandal, which caused widespread panic in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
CIA Director Richard Helms ordered that all records be destroyed in 1973, and only 20,000 escaped destruction.
There were congressional hearings here in the United States in the mid-'70s after it had been exposed. And during those hearings, the CIA finally admitted that this program existed. They admitted that it was probably not the right thing to do, but they feigned innocence.
Did you enjoy this video?
I know, right? That was crazy. Probably.
Maybe, you know.
My bad.
A little too much.
My bad.
But still okay.
Yeah.
I did what I did. Proud of.
You know what I noticed? That the government always be like, okay, we did that, but that was like 20 years ago, so don't get mad at the president who's here now, or because that person who's there wasn't even in charge then, so sorry. Like, but what about the person who did it? Like,
No, yeah.
They never say anything. It's like, oh, well, I don't know, I wasn't president then, or I wasn't in charge then, so sorry. Like,
No, I agree on that. I was not there. I was not in charge, so I'm sorry for what happened, but let's go and grab who did that.
yeah, I don't think they want to do that. Because they never did it before. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in to Team Hallenzano, man. We are on this rabbit hole of conspiracy theories. We having fun sometimes, and sometimes we not. But either way, you're joining with us, so we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm Ink to the G, and I'm here with the and we will be back with another one. So don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Share to be aware. Pushing that algorithm because we need to be there. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.